The Public Option is the name of a new restaurant and bar that will open in Washington, D.C. by late summer or early fall. And according to the Washington City paper, it will also be unique in the sense that it will ban customers from tipping, and instead it's going to pay a living wage to all of its workers. The owner is a guy named Bill Perry, and he says that workers will make at least $15 an hour, and customers will be told not to tip, but if they do tip, the staff gets to decide on which charity to donate the money to. He says, quote, "We are uncomfortable with the dynamic that is created by tipping." Now, not only is that a smart thing to say, I mean, everybody should be uncomfortable by that dynamic, because the minimum wage for those who earn gratuities is just $2.13 an hour. How amazing is that? And restaurants are supposed to make up the difference and pay $7.25 an hour if the waiter or waitress doesn't earn the equivalent of that. But many of them just don't do it. In fact, we covered a story the other day. I think in 4 states, they just don't do that. Amazing. I mean, that means theoretically people could be out there in the middle of, some red state on a lonely road working as a waiter or waitress, and they just get $2.13 an hour. That's it. Like, that's what they actually make. God, it feels like, when you hear that, it feels like it's, some sort of 1950s movie, or actually even before that, like Great Depression type shit. Now, also, I should mention, 11% of people don't tip. 11%. And the poverty rate for restaurant workers is triple that of everybody else. Now, we've talked about this before on the show, but it really bears bringing up again because it's incredibly important. There are a lot of different areas that are exempt from the minimum wage, and the arguments as to why they're exempt are just comical. They're terrible arguments. So, for example, I used to be a car salesman, and they say to you when you start working there, well, don't worry about it, because from commissions, you're going to make way more than what the minimum wage is. Turns out that's not true. There was a time, don't get me wrong, there was a time in like the 80s and the 70s where it was an unregulated, wild place to be, and car dealers would, make a tremendous amount of money off you, and they would rob people and sell them shitty products. But the pendulum swung in the other direction in the sense that now you have car salesmen. I remember, again, I know because I was one, they get fucked over. Not by the customers, but by the dealership. Because we got paid $200 a week. And then if you don't sell anything, you get $200 a week, and then after taxes, you're going home with like $127. You can't fucking live off that. And oftentimes, I'm in New York, and in the winter time, you could easily go weeks without selling a car. Easily. I mean, I made what, $20,000 there in a year working there, or maybe 25 max. That's it, man. People can't live off that. And I'm a single guy, and that wasn't a lot for me. Never mind somebody who has a family and has responsibilities and stuff. So there should be a law, a no exception to the minimum wage law. Because car salesmen are exempt, waiters and waitresses are exempt. You have home care workers, like people who have to look after senior citizens and wipe their asses and make sure they get their medicine on time and walk places with them and stuff like that. They're also exempt from the minimum wage. Why? That makes no sense. No sense. First of all, that profession probably should be paying people at least $50,000 a year for how much work it is and the things you have to do, and you have to actually gain some sort of expertise in that area because it's a hard thing to do, to deal with people and also take care of the physical things and act like a nurse, basically. Less than minimum wage they get paid. Why? It's all because of corruption, because these industries have lobbied the Congress, and Congress carves out all these loopholes, whether it's the car industry that lobbied for it, or the different groups that have a lot of these home care workers that they send out, and people at the top make all the money while these guys get paid nothing, these men and women. So it's an incredible situation, and all you have to do is pass that law, no exception to the minimum wage law, and then everything is fixed overnight. But of course, Congress doesn't represent us, it represents the corporation, so they wouldn't do that. And that's not it. I mean, obviously, this goes without saying, you need to raise the minimum wage to a living age, at least $12 an hour. That's step number one. Step number two, Obama actually did this next one, which is update the overtime pay rules. He's in the process of doing that. And step three is what I just mentioned, the no exception to the minimum wage law. It's time to end this ridiculous, primitive practice of, well, you're going to have to leave it up to the kindness of strangers to determine whether or not you can live if you're a waiter or a waitress.